Mate, Australia just got played. While Anthony Albanese stood there grinning, puffing his chest out about this so-called ambitious 2035 emissions target, what he really did was sell the country a fantasy wrapped in a green bow. 62 to 70% cuts from 2005 levels sounds heroic, sounds world-class. But here's the thing no one in Canberra wants to say out loud. We're broke on energy, industry's bleeding jobs, and the very same mob preaching renewables are the ones who gutted our coal grid and left families paying record power bills. They call it responsible. I call it reckless. They say it's backed by science, but it's backed by desperation to look good on the world stage, while the average Aussie is choking under higher costs of living. And Albanese, mate, he's banking on you not noticing the con until it's too late. You've got Chris Bowen, the energy minister, up there like some climate messiah, banging on about the biggest economic transformation since the Industrial Revolution. Really? Tell that to the bloke in Western Sydney who can't afford to keep the heater on in winter. Tell it to the small business owner in Melbourne who just got slapped with a power bill double what it was last year. They're not seeing transformation. They're seeing destruction. But Bowen reckons Aussies are keen on the journey. Keen? Mate, Aussies aren't keen on coughing up half their paycheck just to keep the lights on. This isn't ambition. It's political theatre, and they're rolling out the red carpet while the rest of us are left footing the bill. Here's where it gets spicy. While Albanese is out there banging on about solar panels being 10 times cheaper than they were 20 years ago, the truth is we're still importing half the bloody tech from China. That's right. The country Albanese warns us about when it comes to security and influence is the same country we're relying on to power this so-called clean revolution. And while we're at it, don't forget that China's still building coal plants at breakneck speed. So Aussies are meant to tighten the belt, cough up more cash, and trust the government's plan, while Beijing laughs all the way to the bank. If that doesn't make your blood boil, you're not paying attention. And then, just when you think it couldn't get dodgier, Susan Ley pops into the scene. Now, she's the first female opposition leader in history, which sounds like progress, but let's not get carried away. She smells blood in the water, and she's going after Albo like a shark circling a wounded seal. And fair dinkum, she's got ammo. Her line? That Labour inherited a strong grid and turned it into chaos. She calls them hypocrites who slammed the libs for a decade of denial while blowing billions on Band-Aid fixes. And the best part? She's not wrong. For the first time in years, Aussies might actually listen to a Liberal leader, because Labour's made such a dog's breakfast of energy, migration, and inflation that even diehard voters are whispering, maybe it's time to give the other mob a go. And here's where the Trump card drops, literally. Donald John Trump, back in the White House as the 47th president, and he's looking right at Australia like, mate, you lot are mugs. He's already making noise about ripping up climate pledges, putting America first, and telling allies to stop freeloading. You think he's going to pat Albo on the back for his shiny emissions target? Forget it. Trump's going to squeeze Australia harder than ever, trade deals, security pacts, the lot. And here's the kicker, Lay's people know it. They're whispering behind the scenes that when Trump pushes, Albo will fold. Weak PM, weak spine, and Aussies left holding the bag. Now, I've got to spell this out. What's happening isn't just climate policy. It's cultural warfare, it's economic sabotage, and it's a straight-up slap in the face to working families. Albanese says the transition is a golden economic opportunity. The Treasurer says we'll be $36,000 wealthier per person by 2050. Mate, pull the other one, it's got bells on it. You can't even get wages to keep up with inflation right now, and they want us to believe in fairy tale modeling about being richer in 25 years? That's not economics, that's snake oil. The truth? Treasury themselves admit that if the transition goes pear-shaped, the economy could shrink by over $1 trillion. Translation: the government's gambling your future on a bet they can't guarantee, and if it backfires, you'll be the one paying the price. And it gets darker. Migration's already falling, the job market's cooling, and ordinary Aussies are getting squeezed harder than ever. Albanese stands there proud, saying unemployment is only 4.2%. But behind that number? Families working 2 jobs just to cover the rent, students giving up on owning a home, retirees choosing between food and electricity. This isn't progress, this is pain. And while Canberra cheers its targets, people out here are watching their standard of living vanish. This isn't leadership, this is betrayal, and the fact that it's being sold as the right thing for future generations makes it all the more insulting. But here's the twist no one's talking about. What if Susan Ley flips the script completely? What if she doesn't just oppose Labour's plan, but leans into Trump's America First wave? Imagine Ley telling Aussies, Enough with Paris, enough with being the teacher's pet. Let's put Australia first. It'd be controversial, it'd be explosive, but mate, it'd land. Because deep down, Aussies are sick of being told to sacrifice while the big polluters get a free pass. They're sick of virtue signaling from Canberra while their bills skyrocket. And Lay knows it. She's not just gunning for Albo's seat, she's gunning to blow the climate war wide open. And don't think this ends with energy. The cracks are spreading everywhere: foreign policy, defense, even sport's been dragged into it. The government's throwing $50 million at local sporting clubs to go green. I mean, really? Who asked for that? The footy club doesn't care about emissions, they care about keeping the lights on and the beers cold. Yet here we are, drowning in cost of living crises while Canberra hands out green bribes to clubs for photo ops. It's tone deaf, it's desperate, and it proves what Aussies already know. The people running the show are out of touch. And that's just the start. Because the deeper you look, the more this whole thing reeks of a stitch-up. Albanese isn't chasing climate targets for Aussies, he's chasing applause from the UN, from Davos, from foreign leaders who couldn't care less if your power bill doubles. He's playing the global stage, not the home crowd. And meanwhile, the home crowd is getting restless. You can feel it in the pubs, you can hear it on talkback radio, you can see it in the polls. Trust is collapsing, faith in government's evaporating, and the only thing holding it all together is spin. And spin doesn't put food on the table. And here's the kicker, mate, the cracks in this whole transition to glory fantasy aren't just economic, they're cultural. Aussies have always prided themselves on calling it how it is, no bull, no sugarcoating. But what Albo and his mob are doing right now is the opposite. They're dressing up pain as progress, calling sacrifice opportunity, and gaslighting everyday families into thinking higher bills are somehow patriotic. You're not saving the planet by paying more for petrol. You're just making Canberra feel good at the next UN summit. And people are waking up to it. You can hear it in the pubs, blokes slamming down schooners saying, "Mate, I can't even afford to take the kids on a weekend trip anymore. But Albanese reckons I'm part of some climate revolution." That's not leadership, that's pure delusion. Now let's talk about the Trump effect, because whether Aussies like it or not, what happens in Washington doesn't just stay in Washington. Trump's back in the White House and he's already trashing Paris, ripping up climate deals, and telling allies to carry their own bloody weight. And you better believe Australia's at the top of that list. You think Trump's going to let Albo swan around with his emissions targets while the Yanks pump their economy with cheap energy? Forget it. Trump will squeeze Albo on defense spending, on trade, even on submarines, until the bloke cracks. And the scary bit? Albanese doesn't have the ticker to stand up to him. The same PM who buckles under pressure from his own backbench is meant to stare down Donald Trump? Not a chance. And when that happens, Aussies are going to feel it. Higher costs, weaker deals, and a government caught flat-footed while the world shifts without us. And here's where Susan Ley smells her golden moment. Because let's be honest, mate, the Liberals haven't had a spine for years. But Ley, she's playing a different game. She's the first woman to lead the Libs, and she knows she has to be ruthless. She's already blasting Labor's targets as unachievable fantasies, hammering them for selling out industries, and hinting, very carefully, that Australia should think twice about shackling itself to global agreements while others cheat. And say what you want about her, but that message cuts through. Because Aussies are sick of being the teacher's pet in class, doing all the homework while the bullies at the back, China, India, even the US now under Trump, don't give a toss. Ley might not be loved, but she doesn't have to be. She just has to be the alternative when people finally say enough is enough. And it's not just Canberra where the fire's spreading. Across the regions, there's this bubbling anger that no one in the city gets. Farmers are staring down insane new environmental rules that tell them how to run their land, what to plant, how many cattle they can keep, all in the name of emissions. Miners are watching project approvals vanish overnight while green tape strangles their livelihoods. And the kicker? The government tells them it's all for future generations. Try saying that to a bloke who's about to lose his job in Gladstone because the refinery's shutting down. Try telling it to a family in Kalgoorlie staring at empty shifts because new exploration got blocked. You reckon they'll buy that? They're not thinking about 2050. They're thinking about making it to Friday. And here's where the hypocrisy just smacks you in the face. While Albo preaches about decarbonization, his government's quietly approving gas projects and shuffling billions into defense deals that rely on fossil fuels. One hand waves the green flag, the other signs the check for more coal exports. But the spin doctors reckon Aussies are too dumb to notice. Well, guess what? People notice. People see the double standard. And nothing kills trust faster than being told one thing while the opposite happens behind closed doors. That's why the anger feels different this time. It's not just frustration, it's betrayal. And mate, don't even get me started on how migration ties into this mess. Albanese crows about net overseas migration dropping, like it's some achievement. But it's not because of smart planning. It's because people don't want to come here anymore. The dream of Australia, affordable homes, strong jobs, a fair go, is evaporating. Instead, you've got young Aussies locked out of housing, wages flatlining, and cost of living exploding. And the government thinks tossing out a shiny 2035 target is going to distract from that? Pull the other one. If anything, it just rubs salt in the wound. Meanwhile, Lay's sharpening her knives, and you can tell she's eyeing off the Trump playbook. What if she stands up and says, "You know what, stuff Paris, stuff the UN, let's put Australia first"? It'd be explosive, it'd be controversial, but mate, it would land. And suddenly you've got a real choice. A PM obsessed with global applause, or an opposition leader ready to torch the script and fight for the home crowd. That's the showdown no one's talking about yet, but it's coming, and when it hits, it'll be the ugliest, dirtiest fight Australian politics has seen in years. And here's the truth that will make you choke on your morning flat white. None of this is about climate or emissions, or even the environment. It's about control. It's about who gets to call the shots, who gets the money, and who gets the power. Albanese wants to be remembered as the PM who made Australia a renewable superpower. Lay wants to be remembered as the one who brought the Liberals back from the dead. And Trump? He just wants to win, and he doesn't care who gets trampled along the way. But in this triangle of chaos, Aussies are the ones getting squeezed. And no one in Canberra is losing sleep over it, except maybe the ones terrified they'll be booted at the next election. So where does that leave us? With a government drunk on global applause, an opposition licking its lips, and an America under Trump ready to turn the screws. Australia's caught in the middle, mate, and it's about to get messy. You think energy prices are high now? Wait until Trump rewrites trade deals and China retaliates. You think trust in politics is low now? Wait until Lay starts echoing Trump's Australia first, and the whole debate splits the country down the middle. This isn't just policy. This is a cultural fault line, and when it cracks, it'll shake everything from Parliament House to your local servo. And let's be blunt, Aussies are sick of it. Sick of being lectured, sick of being played, sick of being told to smile while they're kicked in the guts. This isn't about left or right anymore. It's about reality versus spin. And right now, reality's winning. Because no matter how many glossy announcements Albo makes, no matter how many targets he sets, no matter how much modeling he waves around, the numbers don't lie. Your power bill, your rent, your grocery receipt, that's the scoreboard. And right now, Aussies are losing. Badly. So, strap in. Because the next few years won't just decide who runs the country, they'll decide what kind of country we even are. Are we the mugs who bend over backwards for global deals while our own people struggle? Or are we the battlers who finally stand up and say, "Nah, enough's enough"? That's the fight ahead. And it's going to be bloody. See you in the next one. And don't forget to slap that like button like it just tripled your power bill while telling you it's for the greater good. Oi, and if you're really fired up, grab the "Can I vote for a kangaroo" shirt, wear it to the next cost of living protest, the next town hall, or just down at the pub when you're paying $15 for a pint while wondering why Canberra's busy saving the planet instead of saving Aussies. Stay loud, stay awake, and never stop fighting for the Australia we bless.